Hey, everybody. Let's talk about the people who are living in the United States. Roughly, we can think about people in three categories, and their political affiliation is not part of this category system. So we could be talking about Democrats, Republicans, independents, or unaffiliated or third party, or anything in between. Regardless of where we are on the political spectrum, there are a few people who specifically want violence around the election or around our political system. They are looking for it. They are specifically thinking that violence will serve their purposes well, and they are hoping that it will happen, or else they're intending to commit it. I have spoken to some of these people. It's a difficult conversation to have, and it's difficult to understand and try to interrupt. Then there's a few people also who are just never going to be violent. So that's this whole other category of people who are definitely not going to pick up arms or be psychologically violent or anything else. And these people are great in so much as they are not going to contribute to the violence, but also they are only helpful if they're prepared to understand how to engage non-violently. So someone who would themselves never be violent can actually escalate violence by the way that they talk about things or decide to engage or decide not to engage. So the folks who are not going to be violent, it's actually really important that they too are given tools to understand how they can avoid contributing to the environment of violence. But then there's a third group. And this is a third group that's kind of somewhere in the middle. They're not committed to violence, and they are probably not especially inclined to be violent, but they're also not totally committed to nonviolence and not especially inclined to make that commitment. This is a group of people that's likely to respond to circumstance. Based on what happens, that will change how they might behave. And this is the group that we're most hoping to support and encourage in election violence prevention. We're trying to make that non-reactive environment so that when the catalyst goes off, when there is some incident of violence or some provocation to violence, that people are not going to react in a violent way. Our hope with this group of people who are kind of somewhere in the middle is to make it really clear that in our society, nonviolence is normal. Nonviolence is comparatively easy. That is, it's actually easier to do than engage in violence. And also, nonviolence is effective, which is true. Civil disobedience and other types of nonviolent campaigns are incredibly effective in getting social change. This group of people that's kind of swayable and not committed either way is likely to choose nonviolence if the environment around them is actively encouraging that. So a lot of people ask, is it actually our hope when we're doing election violence prevention that we will stop all violence and we will convince people who are committed to violence that they shouldn't be? And the answer is no. We actually all have a role in this, and we may not be able to convince the relative few that violence is a bad idea. But we can be with the majority of people who are saying, no, I'm not especially inclined toward violence, and help them understand how to make sure that it doesn't happen.